Welcome to What's Really Going On. If you're here, it's because you're ready to look past the polite narratives and the stained glass.
Right.
If you're hoping for some kind of gentle, comforting meditation, I'm afraid you've stumbled into the wrong place.
Very much the wrong place.
Yeah.
Our mission today is, well, it's unapologetically critical.
We're pulling apart the institution of religion. And to be clear, we're not talking about some harmless, solitary spiritual quest.
No, not at all. We're dissecting the machine, the structured, often incredibly violent and, highly profitable system that's built around belief.
We're looking at its deepest claims, its philosophical roots, and then, and this is the important part, its cynical operation, how it actually works on the ground.
It's not about some sacred truth in a vacuum. It's about the very worldly container that's been built to hold that truth, and of course, to market it and monetize it.
Okay, so let's start with the language itself. If you dig into the Latin roots of the word religion, you find this fascinating split.
You really do. It's a tension that's right there in the etymology.
On the one hand, you've got religi, which means something like reverence, piety, duty. It sounds very high-minded.
That's the ideal, isn't it? The spiritual quest part.
But then there's the other root, the darker, more institutional one,
Religere.
which means to tie up or to bind.
Exactly. So the question becomes, which one of those really captures the essence of modern organized religion? Is it about liberation through reverence, or is it about control, about binding people?
And the material we're looking at suggests it's very much the latter. The binding is the function, even if reverence is the sales pitch.
And the stated purpose is always so ambitious, isn't it? To achieve unification, reorientation, reintegration, basically to pull yourself together from this fragmented, disoriented, disintegrated state.
That state is often linked to the Eastern concept of sasaramaya.
Right. Explain that a little.
Well, sasaramaya isn't just, the world of suffering. It's more specific. It's the cycle of rebirth, of existence itself, which is seen as fundamentally illusory, fragmented, and based on ignorance. So the binding, the religar, is positioned as the rope you need to pull yourself out of that cycle.
It's the tether to truth, the necessary constraint to escape the chaos of illusion.
Okay, so if you manage to do this, if you live by this divine law and order, you're presented as an emissary of go-truth on earth.
You're operating on a higher plane than the broken world around you.
But then the material throws in this fantastic, cynical little detail. It describes this person as a divinely DNA-bonded double agent.
I love that phrase. It just perfectly encapsulates the tension.
A double agent. Why?
Because you're bonded to the divine law, your higher nature, but you're operating deep inside enemy territory, which is, material reality. Or even worse, a flawed human institution that often works directly against that divine law.
So you're serving a true master truth, God, whatever you want to call it, while having to navigate the vice and error of the lower system.
You're walking a tightrope. That's the core conflict, which I think leads us straight into why we even needed these systems in the first place.
Yeah, and the assessment here is brutal. The consensus among critics is that it's all just a form of social restraint.
And that's a view that's deeply rooted in thinkers like Sigmund Freud. He had a very harsh sociological take on it.
What was his argument, basically?
He theorized that religion was, and I'm paraphrasing, necessary to help restrain violent impulses in early civilizations. In our pre-rational savage days, it was the only thing that could cage our worst urges and make society possible.
So it was a necessary neurosis.
Exactly. Psychological training wheels for humanity.
But there's a twist, right? Freud also suggested that we can, and we should, now set it aside, for reason and science.
We can, but he was very specific. He reserved that kind of liberation for a rare few.
Implying that most of us still need the training wheels. We still need the psychological cage to stop us from becoming destructive.
Which lines up perfectly with how this material defines religion as a radical reaction to ape-man appetitive excess over indulgence, diabolical decadence.
It's an ideological war against our own base instincts.
The crude, unthinking part of us that just wants instant gratification no matter the cost.
And if you look at the goals of, well, any legitimate spiritual system, the core intention is always the same.
Always. To diminish dog-crude self-egoity and concomitantly increase God-Christ self-humanity gets our hat off.
Let's unpack that. The dog-crude self is the ego.
It's the greedy, reactive, unthinking ego, the embodiment of that ape-man excess. And on the other side, you have Yetzer Hatov, which is a Jewish concept. It's the good inclination, the drive towards morality and order.
So whether you call it Christ's self or Buddha nature, it's all about cultivating that higher nature by starving the lower one.
That's the universal process.
Okay, so if we follow that logic to its most extreme but also most uh, logical conclusion,
Hmm.
if the ultimate goal is to defeat the crude self and find peace.
Then the ultimate goal of all these systems has to be liberation,
Liberation, that's the promise.
unquestionably. But then comes the big question, the one this material answers with the philosophical sledgehammer.
Liberation from what?
From suffering. That's the consensus.
And what's the root cause of all that suffering?
Embodiment itself. The simple, brutal fact of being born into a fragmented material reality, samsara maya, is the original sin. Existence is suffering.
Which brings us to the most radical claim in this entire analysis. It's an absolute bombshell.
It really is.
If existence is suffering, and the whole point of religion is to get liberation from that suffering.
Then the material asserts that antinatalism is the litmus test of all so-called religions, and conversely, pronatalism is satanic.
Okay, stop there. That is a direct assault on the entire operational model of most global faiths.
It's designed to be. If you accept the logic that existence equals suffering, then intentionally creating new lives, encouraging birth, is actively promoting suffering.
You're maximizing the very thing you claim to be fighting.
You are.
But hang on, I have to push back a bit here. That completely ignores the other function of religion, right? Community, social stability, the joy people find in family and procreation. If every faith adopted that, humanity would be gone in a century.
And that's the tension. The critique here is that the institution has betrayed its own highest promise.
How so?
If the stated goal is ultimate liberation from pain, then promoting births means the system is structurally working against its own purpose. It makes the whole apparatus of recruitment and, maximizing headcount.
Which is the primary focus of most big religions.
It makes it an act of systemic cruelty. You are perpetuating the cycle of error and pain. In this philosophy, the survival of the species is synonymous with the survival of suffering.
So the moment a faith stops focusing on individual liberation and starts focusing on institutional growth.
It fails the litmus test. It becomes a machine that perpetuates the misery it promised to end.
It's hard to get more critical than calling your primary marketing strategy the devil's work.
No, it's not. The machine survives by creating a constant supply of new sufferers who then have to pay the institution for advice on how to cope with the suffering it helped create.
Okay, let's shift to how these systems maintain themselves socially, because the critique moves from the philosophical core to the social contract of delusion.
We can start with Goya's famous line, "The sleep of reason produces monsters and gods."
The implication being that when you stop thinking critically, the void gets filled by the fantastic.
And those fantastic things can be monsters, or they can be deities. They're born from the same place, the vacation of the rational mind.
And once they exist, there are social rules about how we're supposed to interact with them, which is where the comedian Simon Amstell's critique lands so perfectly.
His observation that attacking religious belief feels fundamentally rude.
Right, it's like breaking a social rule.
It highlights this unspoken agreement we all have. We treat these deeply held, often irrational beliefs with this strange, protective politeness.
He compares it to a kid at a party who runs up to you and says, "I'm a helicopter."
You don't tell the kid they're being ridiculous. You play along. You humor them.
We've institutionalized politeness as a defense mechanism for the absurd. We give these claims, which have real-world power, a level of respect based on how many people believe them, not how rational they are.
But that social contract is under a lot of pressure now in the modern world. And it's forcing some religious thinkers to propose some pretty radical changes if faith is going to survive.
Which brings us to Father Noel Jones. His view is that the progressive religions of the future will be deity-divested, ethnically cleansed, and genderless.
I mean, that is a stunning vision. It's faith sterilized of all its historical and political baggage. To be properly fit for purpose, you have to remove the gods, the tribalism, and the gender hierarchy.
It's faith as designed by an HR department.
Pretty much.
But is it still religion at that point? If you strip all that away, aren't you just left with a philosophical club? A polite social justice organization?
It becomes a philosophy of self-help and ethical conduct, yeah. Divested of the supernatural, which leads very naturally to this idea of the open, invisible church.
The church without walls. The counterpunch to the old system.
If the old systems are trapped in concrete and guilt, the future has to be internalized and mobile.
So when the closed, closeted, cloddish-minded person asks you where your church is?
The revolutionary answer is to internalize it. My church is wherever I am, and my congregation is everybody I speak to.
The physical building becomes irrelevant. It's a total rejection of the institutional cage.
But for this invisible church to work, the material insists it has to have vitality. It has to feel alive.
Religion must have rhythm, and virtue must have vibe.
It requires positive vibrations. The proof of truth shifts from external dogma, did you follow the rules, to internal emotional resonance. Does this feel right?
That's a huge shift in authority. The institution is no longer the judge. The emotional state of the individual is.
Yeah. And speaking of critiques, let's tackle another big one. The idea that religious people secretly want the world to end.
Apocalyptic thinking. The material offers a really interesting clarification on this.
It does. It argues that the truly religious, and it uses the term highly sensitive people here, they're not wishing for the destruction of the planet.
They're wishing for the end of world suffering.
They only want the world to end because they see that as the only way for the suffering to stop. It transforms the desire from fanaticism into an act of deep moral desperation.
The logic is chilling, but it's sound. The source says only a stone-hearted sadist or moral moron would want a world saturated with incessant suffering to go on forever.
So the longing for it to end is actually a moral position. They're yearning for what's promised in Revelation 21.1. No more death, no more sorrow, no more pain.
And this is why the utopian religious experiments, the ones that try to build heaven on earth, always fail.
The problem isn't the religion's design. The problem is the people. The potty primate populated planet.
Which is why Shakerism failed. The material calls it the only true Zen religion. Why?
Because the Shakers practiced celibacy. It was a practical application of that antinatalist idea we talked about. If existence is suffering, you have to stop creating new sufferers.
They practice self-extinction as the ultimate spiritual act.
But because they chose celibacy instead of breeding new members, and because they were trying to live this disciplined life in a world of eight-man appetitive excess,
They went bust.
they failed, not because their doctrine was flawed, but because the average person is just incapable of that kind of discipline. We're incapable of accepting voluntary extinction.
The sane religion failed because people are fundamentally insane.
That's the tragedy of it.
And while we're on institutional failures, we have to talk about the biggest one of all, the Vatican.
The material is very, very blunt about this. 2 words.
The Vatican is vulgar.
A vile vessel of vice, not virtue. The critique is that the immense wealth, the political power, the sheer splendor of the place stands in direct contradiction to the humility it's supposed to preach.
It's the ultimate expression of the church's lower self, selfishness, just dressed up in gold.
Which brings us back to that idea of the institution as a constraint. The analogy used is perfect. Religions are like corsets.
A corset imposes a form externally. It holds you in.
And it's only necessary for the decadent, debauched, and undisciplined.
Yeah.
The truly sane person, the one who has achieved that internal transformation.
They should remain untrussed in naked truth.
The rules, the dogma, the guilt, it's all scaffolding for moral weakness. If you have genuine self-discipline, you don't need an external binding.
You just exist in the truth,
Mm-hmm.
which is the ultimate call for rejecting clerical authority. If the institution is a vulgar constraint, the only logical step is to turn away from life, from form, and towards death.
And that plunges us straight into Section 3, into thanatosophy.
Okay, thanatosophy. A concept from Nolan John. It's an attempt to build a sacred religion around the supremacy of death and entropy.
The core doctrine is simple and terrifying. There is no religion higher than death, or, in Latin, mors vincit omnia.
Death conquers all.
This isn't just nihilism, it's a theology built on finality. Instead of finding wisdom in complex spiritual hierarchies, it finds the only absolute, unassailable truth in decay and non-existence.
It sets up this huge cosmic dualism, a war between creation and dissolution.
Right. Death, or entropy, is seen as the all-conquering father and the virtuous void that fundamentally hates form.
Why does death hate form?
Because form is the source of suffering. Form is temporary, it's illusory, it's always decaying. That leads to pain, disappointment, and all the clinging of the crude self. Death is the only honest force.
The only certainty.
It's the only truth. And in this cosmic drama, the sun isn't Christ. The sun is the sun itself, and by extension, Satan or Lucifer.
That's a huge reversal. The sun, the source of life, is evil.
It's the vitalizer, vigorator of vice, enabler of error. because it promotes and sustains the painful illusion of material existence. It keeps us locked in that cycle of suffering, Maya.
So the son is arrogant, but ultimately.
The hubristic son must inevitably submit to the father. Life is temporary. Entropy is eternal.
So the only true religion is to worship the inevitable dissolution of form, not its temporary creation.
Most religions are just cultivating an unhealthy life by clinging to form.
Okay, so if the masses aren't quite ready to embrace death as their highest god, what's the alternative? What's the next big thing they'll buy?
Ah, yes. The religion of the future. The blue chip billion-dollar project.
And what does that look like?
The materials suggest it will be a fully optimized, curated experience, a combination of computer science plus chemistry plus mandala mind massage plus bespoke entheogens.
A custom-designed consciousness experience. So forget fasting, you just download an app for a mandala mind massage while you chemically optimize your mood.
It's the ultimate productization of enlightenment. It delivers the positive vibrations people want, but via technology and pharmacology, it bypasses all the hard work.
Which perfectly illustrates Ron Hubbard's cynical advice. If you want to get rich, start a religion.
The future of faith is transactional. It's a luxury experience. The institution doesn't save your soul, it just rents you a better feeling for a few hours.
Which is a perfect segue into the illusions of the old systems. Let's talk about the mask, the greatest illusion, as the material calls it.
The mask of clericalism, priestcraft, and orthodoxy.
The lower self of the church. What does that mean?
The analogy is that the church's spiritual soul is encased in a physical body, an organism made of its members, its buildings, its politics, its finances.
And that physical church, the lower self, battles for life and is founded upon selfishness while its spires reach up to heaven.
The survival instincts of the institution are rooted in ego and power, even while it claims divine aspiration. And it maintains its control by fostering these unwelcome visitors.
Fear, doubt, and remorse.
And their parentage is key. Their father is selfishness, their mother is cowardice. They're born from ignorance. The institution keeps people afraid of a revengeful power which has no existence.
People are just afraid of the consequences of their own actions, cause and effect.
Exactly. They're afraid of karma. And rather than face it through personal change, they want an escape hatch.
Which brings us to the biggest structural flaw in the whole system, the forgiveness scam.
If everything is governed by cause and effect, how can a priest just step in and wipe the slate clean?
The material offers the only rational philosophy of the forgiveness of sins, and it completely destroys the institutional claim to power.
The argument is simple. You create a cause. It's followed by an effect that comes back to you. You can't just wish it away. To truly escape the consequence, the creator you has to fundamentally change.
You have to become a different person, transform into another being by living in your higher nature.
The escape isn't external absolution from a priest. It's internal, personal transformation. The true sacrificial lamb isn't some outside entity. It's the Christ principle inside you, which is just a symbol for obedience to truth, wisdom, self-knowledge.
So a priest could only forgive your sins if they could magically change the sinner into a saint.
And since they can't do that, since that requires your own individual hard work, their claim to absolution is worthless. They're selling a magical fix for an internal engineering problem.
It puts the whole burden of salvation back on the individual. It makes the middleman obsolete.
Which leads to the ultimate command in the material. Institutional religion has usurped everyday life. So the instruction is simple.
Take back your life. Start your own.
If the old system is a vulgar scam, you have to become your own prophet, your own priest, your own god.
Perfect. Because if you are going to go down that cynical road, you might as well have a business plan. Which brings us to the detailed 11-step guide to starting your own religion.
The Entrepreneur's Guide to Godhood, a masterclass in exploitation designed to help you beat that 92% first-year failure rate.
Step 1, finding your followers. You need people who will hand over control of their lives to God you, and most importantly, will cringe in abject remorse whenever you tell them they've broken a rule.
You need guilt-prone consumers. And there are 5 optimal target markets.
First up, the poor, powerless people, the classic Christianity model, the upside. They breed like rabbits and will donate their last penny. The downside, they don't have any money.
So the business model isn't cash, it's labor. Make them work for you and endure instead.
Second group, rich, crazy people, the Scientology model. Advantages are obvious. Tons of money, power, and influence. Disadvantage, Money solves most of their problems, so you have to invent expensive new spiritual problems for them to solve with cash.
The third strategy is the historical winner. Combine the two. Tell the poor they're blessed for being poor and obedient. This makes the powerful happy because they get divine justification, and it makes the oppressed happy because they get spiritual comfort. It's a perfect system of control.
Fourth, an ethnic group, the Judaic model. High loyalty but very limited growth.
And fifth, the modern untapped market. Nerds incels.
Advantages, lots of technical skills. You get free IT support. Disadvantages, and the source asks this directly, do you really want a bunch of nerds and cells for followers? It's a branding issue.
Okay, step 2, branding. The name needs to be flashy and nonsensical, something like Banana Lamps Urology. The symbol, forget doves, go for devices for torture and door execution.
Electric chairs, gallows, black holes, the message is clear. Cosmic threat or swift compliance.
Step 3 is your figurehead. Your messiah has to be charismatic, good with crowds, and able to perform miracles. And believability is a plus, but not entirely necessary.
Step 4, create your enemies. This is fundamental. It creates the US versus them dynamic. You need conspiracy theories.
And if you're stuck for an enemy, hating the United States of America is always a viable and popular option, guaranteed to get millions of converts.
Yeah.
The list of potential enemies is amazing. Bears, witches, cows, Mel Gibson.
And yourself.
Then you need a moral code. 2 options. The hard code, with impossible rules that guarantee your followers will always be failing and coming back to you for forgiveness, feeling inferior, guilt as a retention tool.
Or the easy code. Lacks morals, orgies, follower pleasure, loyalty through hedonism, a happier, if probably shorter, business model.
You also need a list of holy things to point at during sermons for dramatic effect. The sky, trees, animals having sex, and then, most cynically, boobs.
And the asterisk is crucial. The footnote says, never point to women. Women are impure, only boobs are pure. The act of objectification is consecrated.
Step 5 is the backstory, the origin myth. Classic move is golden plates from an angel, but this is a modern, high-tech, scientific, and rational world. People are skeptical of ghosts.
So what's the update?
Space aliens instead of ghosts. Alien-based religions are the fastest-growing segment of the market because they sound scientific to people who aren't.
Step 6 is the plot line. You need cliffhangers. The examples are, well, there's something. Paralyzing people and killing them with hydrogen bombs is certainly a fantastic cliffhanger. And you must write it down. Printing it makes it seem true.
Step 7, the rules. They have to fit on a postcard for quick conversions.
And they need to cover killing loopholes, just kill your critics, gender inequality, and food taboos.
The food taboos are key for arbitrary control. If you hate mayonnaise, just have your God declare it unclean, unholy, and unacceptable.
And there's a great historical example here. Because Jesus supposedly ate fish, it was exempted from Catholic meat rules on Fridays. That one little rule created massive fishing industries in Boston and Ireland. Your personal hatred of mayo can reshape global commerce.
And you enforce it with the afterlife. Eat mayo, and you will come back as a lowly creation, an egg or a lemon.
Step 8, rituals. The goal is mindless repetition to stop followers from asking rational questions.
Fasts should be marketed as a spiritual salvation and a proven weight loss regime. Chants should be catchy. Adapt U2 or Britney Spears songs.
Sacrifices need to be monetized. If your followers have to donate everything upon death, make them burn incense daily to speed up the process.
It's a prepayment on their inheritance. And for large-scale offerings, have a bonfire of the vanities. It's a great way to heat your church.
The source also notes that given the fervor in the Bible Belt, we could see Aztec-style human sacrifices without anyone batting an eye. The potential for violence is always there.
And for gold bars, just have them deposited by followers and then mysteriously melted before you pick them up.
Step 9, finances. Tithing is standard. Donations from politicians in exchange for endorsements. Government grants.
And the most cynical of all, hobo money. Divert their spending from liquor stores to your religion by promising salvation.
Step 10, promotion. Start humble in a storefront or go big with extravagant advertising. Stir up a shitstorm with protests to get free publicity.
Step 11, milking the profit. This is the end game. Time to collect the nice thingies.
The list is very specific. Follower incomes, virgin daughters, wives, lovers, handsome male lovers, cheese, wine, and nice healthy lentils or beans.
And there's one final crucial rule for the leader. The illusion must be maintained.
The divine God doesn't fart, and neither does God's representative. If the need arises, you must retreat to meditate alone.
The plan ends with the only logical conclusion. Get rich, be proud of your scam, and book it to Mexico.
That 11-step guide just perfectly captures the entire critique. That institutional religion is just a highly successful for-profit enterprise using fear and guilt to accumulate wealth.
Which leads us to the final assessment, institutional psychosis and modern idolatry.
Robert Pirsig's quote just crystallizes it. When one person suffers from a delusion, it is called insanity. When many people suffer from a delusion, it is called religion.
Institutional religion is sanctified psychosis. It's an as-if game, as Hans Weininger put it, that distracts us from the absurdity of life. We pretend the rules matter as if they'll save us.
But these old systems are being replaced by modern consumer models. The grocery store analogy is perfect. Christianity is Waitrose, Islam is Tesco, Judaism is Marks and Spencer.
Faith is a brand choice based on your demographic. You pick the dogma that fits your lifestyle. The future's bright, the future's shopping.
And the ultimate replacement for the old church, the New Age religion of raving.
Clubs are the new churches, Ibiza's the new Jerusalem, and pathogens are the sacraments, and DJs are the priests.
It's the same structure. A shared delusion, sacred geography, controlled substances, and a charismatic leader inducing a collective vibe. The human need for ritual is still there. It's just been repackaged with a baseline.
So we've stared right into the heart of institutional faith. And what we found was a highly successful, often violent enterprise built on fear, guilt, and a robust financial model that, if you play your cards right, ends with you in Mexico with unlimited cheese.
We established that existence is suffering, that embodiment is the root cause, and that, as a consequence, pronatalism is structurally satanic if your goal is true liberation.
And we affirmed that the only real escape is either the finality of death or the excruciating work of becoming a self-disciplined saint. And if you choose that path, remember.
You don't need the Vatican, which, let's be honest, is vulgar. You are the church. Your congregation is everyone you talk to. The internal work is the only thing that matters, not some priest in a fancy moral corset.
The material we've been working through has this powerful motto, orbis non sufficit. The world is not enough.
And after looking at these cynical blueprints for both spiritual liberation and total worldly conquest, the question we want to leave you with is this. Is that motto the cry of the zealous cult leader, consumed by greed, trying to conquer the planet for all the nice thingies? Or is it the final desperate realization of the soul committed to thanatosophy, trying to escape the entire messy system of embodiment? The world is not enough. Is that a statement of ambition, or is it a statement of truth?
The choice between the crude self and the Christ self, as always, is yours.
If you enjoyed having reality served to you unfiltered, do the obligatory motions to appease the digital gods. Like this, subscribe, hit the useless bell notification, and drop a comment so the platform knows you prefer substance over sanitized sermons. Do it now, or risk being reincarnated as a lonely, lonely lemon. Thank you for listening to What's Really Going On?